Hi, Martha.
Hello, Madam Secretary.
I appreciate your patience here. Let me get adjusted for a minute. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy that you have joined us today for our Instagram Live. And I'm Secretary Deb Haaland, as many of you know, and I'm so excited to speak today. It's a very special time here at the Interior. It's Great Outdoors Month, and each June we celebrate all the incredible traditions and places that go with our country's outdoor heritage. It's a great time to explore our nation's amazing public lands and discover the wonders of nature. I was very lucky as a kid to spend so much time outdoors with my dad and my siblings. In fact, I feel like we spent more time outside than we did inside for much of my childhood. And that included the times I spent with my grandfather in his cornfield. So it's been a wonderful life that I've had. And that caused me to gain a deep respect for our outdoors, for nature, because from that, everything comes. Everyone deserves access to the outdoors, no matter their background, where they live, what their income is. And it's up to all of us to make sure that that happens. So with us today to talk more about the outdoors, I know it's one of her favorite subjects of all time, is our incredible director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Martha Williams. Martha is a tremendous public servant and outdoor enthusiast. I've seen her at work. I've seen her work up close. I appreciate her leadership, and she is a lot of fun to experience nature with. So welcome to Instagram Live, Martha. Thank you for hosting us. And right now, I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself with the audience, how you came to the department, what your role entails as director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and why it's an important role.
Oh, thank you, Madam Secretary. And it's always so nice to get to visit with you. And I want to start with just saying what an incredible honor it is to be the director of the Fish and Wildlife Service and to serve in this administration and to serve you, and that I take your and the President's confidence in me to lead the Fish and Wildlife Service to heart. And I also can't get over the timing that I'm here right now because of you and because of the President's commitment to our connection to nature, and why it's so important really to all Americans to have this opportunity. So I suppose that even starts to answer a little bit about myself. I think the key thing is I just love to be outside. I love to, I love the smell of the rain. I love to hear birds and the sounds and crickets and bugs. I love the feel of the wind on my face on a cold day. So I like everything about being outside. And I'm guessing that's why I did come to the department. I sometimes pinch myself and wonder how I got here. But I think I got here because of my passion for nature and for our wild places and wild things. And so as the director of the service, that's what I oversee, is this incredible agency built with these incredibly committed public servants who all absolutely believe in and care so much about our mission to steward these resources that are so important to us as a nation. So it's really cool that I get to oversee the Fish and Wildlife Service and our wildlife, our fish, our habitat, and plants that are in need of conservation.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And I know that this isn't your first job in conservation, so you've been doing this for a long time. You've spent your career working for wildlife. How has your previous experience impacted your approach to how you do your work here at the Interior?
Boy, it really has impacted my approach. I think that because I've worked in conservation for so long, I know how to listen. I know how to learn. I don't pretend to know everything, but I'm constantly learning and adding to my depth of knowledge. And what I'd say in working in this area for so long is that it's teamwork matters, partnerships matter, and that these issues mean so much to people on all different levels. And so sometimes they're controversial, sometimes they're hard. They are because people are so passionate about them, and that's a gift. To understand why they matter so much to people and think about our connection in the Department of the Interior to people's lives. And that,
Absolutely.
I think that sticks with me, Madam Secretary, as we travel together.
Yes, absolutely. And it does have an effect on people's lives. You know, I hear a lot about, like a lot of folks, just Americans, people I speak to, you know, every day, they talk a lot about national parks. But maybe people sometimes don't know a lot about national wildlife refuges, urban wildlife refuges, national fish hatcheries, that they can visit those when they're out, that sometimes they're close to national parks. And so you can get a 2-for-1 if you're visiting an area where there's an urban wildlife refuge. And so as the direct, and even the fish hatcheries, right? Those are kind of my new really awesome finds myself. So as the director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, you oversee all of those important places that belong to every single American. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about those as well.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And yes, our national parks are so incredible, and so too are our national wildlife refuges. So the refuge system under the Fish and Wildlife Service, the Department of the Interior, is this incredible, it's this gem of a network of these refuges across the country. They're in every state and territory. There are over 560 national wildlife refuges. There are over 70 national fish hatcheries, and they're the only system of public lands that were set aside, lands and waters that were set aside specifically to conserve America's fish, wildlife, and plants. And yet, even though they were set aside to conserve these really important fish, wildlife, and plants and habitats, we're also so focused on access to these refuges and people's ability to use them. That some of them, we have these really wonderful hunting and fishing opportunities, wildlife observation, photography. You and I, have gotten to go to a number of them together, like the John Heinz Wildlife Refuge right outside of Philadelphia, and see the connection of these refuges to these urban centers. So I guess I would say they are just this incredible network and ribbon of public lands that sometimes people forget, and they're there for all of us.
Absolutely, for all of us. So I don't know if I love critters as much as you do, but I love them a lot.
I know you do, Madam Secretary.
And I know that we've made it a priority to conserve our natural resources and our habitats to make sure that wildlife can survive in those healthy ecosystems. Do you have a wildlife success story that you'd like to share today?
I do, Madam Secretary, because it's one of my fondest memories with you. I think one of the first conversations I got to have with you was about bald eagles, and that here is a species of bird that's so important to so many Native American cultures. It's our national symbol, and bald eagles were over 40 years ago in danger of extinction. And through habitat destruction, to degradation, contamination of their food from DDT. So the fact that we've been able to recover the bald eagle as this symbol in this country, I think it shows to me the hope we can have for our species and for our environment. I think sometimes people can get a little overwhelmed by climate and concerns about the environment. And bald eagles demonstrate that if we put some effort into recovering these species, they really do come back, that nature has this way of healing itself if we give it a chance. So I'd say that's an example of where you and I get to watch nest cams, or we get to watch bald eagles nesting and raising their young.
Yes, I was about to say that when I first got here to the interior, that's the first thing I did was start following at the National Conservation Training Center the pair of bald eagles that had just given birth to a chick. I guess they call them chicks, and it was so amazing to see this mother eagle, you know, with a gigantic fish in her talons, bring it home to the nest to make sure that her young bald eagle is fed. Pretty amazing. So thank you for that. So some folks may not know that this week marks 150th anniversary of the National Fish Hatchery System. And I got to visit a fish hatchery recently in Montana, I believe it was. That was just absolutely amazing. People probably don't realize how many fish are hatched at fish hatcheries every single month, year, week, and how much care and time they put into that. So I wanted to give you a chance just to talk about fish hatcheries and why they're important and how cool they are.
Yeah. Thank you. That makes me so happy. That makes my heart happy that you, Madam Secretary, really loved going to the fish hatchery in Montana and connected with it. And I think of like when with my kids, we would go to fish hatcheries and watch the fish swimming along. But they are, like you say, they're so important to conserving these species that are at risk, where we have focused on our national fish hatcheries and bringing back these species, like the hatchery we went to, which is the first and only fish hatchery to raise bull trout that are so culturally significant to the whole northwest part of the country. But the fish hatcheries also produce over 100 million fish, as you said, a lot of fish for recreation, for tribes, for communities. And Madam Secretary, I was just in your home state in New Mexico and talked to our our staff who run the Mora National Fish Hatchery. That's also the only place that is rearing and really protecting Gila trout. And they literally stood in the way of the fire to protect and make sure those fish were okay, that they evacuated them, that the hatchery withstood everything that kind of came its way. So I think the fish hatcheries are their own metaphor for what our staff do to conserve these species for all Americans, that they're accessible to everyone, and that they provide the service that I bet, you know, not many people realize that they're there for all of us and for the fish.
I commend your staff, Martha, and for the fish hatchery staff that I've met in the several fish hatcheries that I've been to, just amazing, dedicated people. So that's awesome, and I thank you for your leadership of all of them. So it is now it's Great Outdoors Month, which sounds pretty amazing. So of course I would be outdoors every chance I get. But I want you to talk a little bit about how the Fish and Wildlife Service works to make sure that the outdoors are more accessible. That is important. And I recognize that like sometimes folks, they can't travel hundreds of miles to get to enjoy the outdoors, but I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about how we want to make sure that every American can have access to these public lands.
Oh, thank you, Madam Secretary, and for your focus on this. The Fish and Wildlife Service is really focused on making sure that all Americans of all ages can get outside with family and friends to connect to nature. We know that it's really good for our emotional well-being. We know that it's good for our communities, that it's good for our economies. So we've been so focused on what we call this urban wildlife program, and that's providing opportunities across the country, but also in all of these places that are near cities, that there are so many, like where we went to the John Heinz Refuge outside of Philadelphia as an example. And we're working really hard with the communities to make sure people can get to the refuges, those people who don't have cars, and to have a connection to the community. And it's even taught us, Madam Secretary, I think a lot about how we deliver our mission to steward these resources. It's taught us to work with communities, to ask the communities what they need, and how we can meet the communities where they are to provide these services and accessibility for everyone. So I look forward to visiting more of these urban refuges with you and to creating more in the future as well.
Awesome. Yes, when we went to the Detroit River Wildlife Refuge, I know we had a little round table where we spoke with community members and staff, and they talked about a bus. Like some folks didn't know there was a bus that dropped you off right there. So making sure that that like I want more people to talk about these things, right? And how accessible these places are. So as you can tell, I really want everyone to be outdoors. So we'll keep working at that as well.
Yay, Madam Secretary, I don't want to forget. So while we have over 100 national wildlife refuges within 25 miles of cities, we also have over 30 cities around the country that are urban bird treaty cities that can adopt these treaties for birds. And I think what that does too is it reminds us, like, I love the West and these wide open spaces, but what I've learned too is just getting to connect in your backyard, or the tree that you see out your window, the birds you see out your window here at your office, for us to connect with nature wherever we are, and to, honor that ability and what we can learn from really getting to know a place, even if it's just right outside our door or window.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay. Everywhere I go, I talk about President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, which I love talking about because it's amazing and it's really done wonders for our country and will reverberate for decades. Today, I want to hear about the record investment in ecosystem restoration and fish passages. So I don't know if that's a term that a lot of people hear, but I'd love for you to talk about fish passages, what they do, why they're important.
I'm so glad you asked. And I think as you travel and as I've traveled to fish passage projects, the key thing is just that the fish passage program is really all about working with local communities to restore rivers, to restore our aquatic resources by removing barriers to fish. But really, it's all about restoring these waters for the health of the community, for public health, for healthy water, for fish, and for people and the communities that we've gone to. I'm thinking of going to the Cheat River in West Virginia on a rainy day, and how the community came together to celebrate removing a fish barrier that really impacted people's accessibility to the river, to water quality, and then allows fish to pass through this river. And the amazing thing about investing in fish passage, this program, is it doesn't take that much money to have an enormous impact. And again, it shows nature's power to renew and restore itself by removing these barriers. These rivers really do come back, and the communities come back with them. So I'm very grateful for this investment from the president, and in this program specifically, because it has such compounding beneficial impacts.
Awesome. And I love, you can't go wrong when the community has input and the community is working right to help us move these things forward. So that's amazing. Yes. I'd love to keep you on this Instagram Live all day long, but but this is my last question, Martha, and then you can get back to all the important work that you do. As a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Director and a person who has spent their life working in conservation, what is your favorite outdoor recreation activity, if you think you can answer that?
Yeah, I know I should say, can you answer that, Madam Secretary? I think I would I'd finish with what I started in that my favorite activity is one that's outside. And I love anything that gets me outside. So that's first and foremost. But something that I really cherish, it's camping, being on a river and camping next to a river and hearing the river at night, seeing bats by the camp, waking up to the mist, right next to the river, and the feel of that. And I love high alpine places. I like being high up in the mountains. That takes me a couple days to get up to, and the crisp air, and just feeling like I'm in a whole alpine world all to itself.
That sounds amazing. It makes me want to go there right this minute. Martha, thank you so much. I love the work you do. I love the people you work with. I'm so honored to be your colleague at the Department of the Interior, and I hope you have an amazing day. We'll do this again sometime.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, okay. And right back at you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.